Welcome to episode 2 of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And in today's episode, I build the Hallelujah Mountains famously from the first film of the Avatar franchise. If you do want to support me in any way, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And also, if you do want to use this set for yourself, it is now on the Steam Workshop, well, not the Steam Workshop, the Frontier Workshop within Planet Coaster 2. If you want to use it, it's under my YouTube name, Steezo73, so be sure to use it. And I would say leave a comment, but the Frontier Workshop is sadly just a little bit lackluster than Steam Workshop from capabilities wise, but at least console users can use some PC stuff, like my Hallelujah Mountains you are seeing me create in front of you now. Sadly, the lack of rocks in this game, well, when I say lack of rocks, I mean lack of rock colours, just mainly because the moss rock I don't like the texture of it, and the tropical rock is the perfect texture, but too dark. So it was quite hard to recreate these mountains when you had a reference, because in my mind they look completely different to my reference, so I did have a couple of struggles, but I think it actually turned out really well. And one of the main features this game doesn't have at the moment is some sort of vines or overgrown hedge that's just dead or something like along those lines, just because you can't create these sort of curvy lines in the game. So if you guys are wondering how I created this vine piece that I used to connect the mountains, it is using the bald cypress knees and spinning them around, not too much so you can't see through, but just enough where you can see through but also get that vine texture as well, so it looks like a thick piece of vine. So my reference here was the one from Disney World in Florida in Animal Kingdom. That one up there uses a lot of vines to actually support the structure itself. So if you've ever been there, you realise actually how big the scale is of these. And in game, it's definitely a lot better, but not as realistic. But just mainly because I don't have this beanstalk sort of vibe I was going for, and I couldn't really create it with the items. You probably saw from last episode, but I did have that aside ready to kind of just get straight into it, just because I literally looked through all the items and thought, that's how I'm doing my vines, I had to do that. So you do definitely have to put some improvisation when it comes to creating new pieces, and when it comes to foliage, I think I'll be doing that a lot, as Avatar is a alien planet itself. In fact, you'll see a bit later, but I do add some animatronics and hide them a little bit, just because, you know, it's very obvious when these eels are coming out of pipes, it doesn't look that realistic. So I do have a couple of nature elements coming in with some animatronics as well. I am thinking of making a custom animatronic, but that will come at a later date. So yeah, I also want to talk about the future episode, the one after this one, because this episode's not that big. It's just the Hallelujah Mountains, nothing too big to worry about. But when it comes to centerpiece, it is going to be the largest, second largest there, so it is quite important. But next episode, I have placed it down already, but it is I forgot what the name of the ride's called, but it's going to be an Ekran nursery ride, where it's a flat ride with the little planes. I forgot the name of it. Oh, that's really going to bug me now. Anyway, that ride where you kind of go these little planes and you can tilt them and you go around. And I saw they're actually putting this in the How to Train Your Dragon land in the new Universal park coming out called Epic Universe, I think it's called. So I took a lot of inspiration from that, and it's going to be basically the Ekran's first flight, and I've already added some scenery to this just because it's not as important as you think it might be, but it's just like wings and dragon heads and stuff, and eventually that will turn into this beautiful nest that I'm going to create with this rocky cliffside, but it's just temporary there at the minute so I can get it working and understand how the mechanics work, because it is a new game. You know, I'm not going to show you every step of the way. Obviously with the rocks you see now, there's a couple of different sizes. Pretty sure there are about 5 or 6 types of rocks, like large rocks I did. But yeah, I quite like them actually. They're very good as a cliffside, not just as a floating rock, but they're very good to put on cliffs. And they're also really good to put on these vine sets as well. If you do want this Hallelujah Mountains on the Frontier Workshop, be sure to let me know in the comments. And if you have any ideas for this park, please let me know. I am struggling to come up with some ideas, and obviously, if you guys don't know, I'm having the water park be based on the second movie and the more theme park to be based on the first movie. As I said before, I do have a couple of ideas, but just struggling to come up with the whole concept itself, just because I can't find any inspiration for anything like this except Disney. But they do have a little bit of rides which I already nabbed the idea of. So just know that caves are going to be there, bioluminescence. I'm going to try my best to try and get these points across, and I think it'll look really, really cool when it's done. So yeah, just some quick tips I thought I'd give out. But if you are thinking of starting your own mountain, the new scaling feature is possibly the best way to start. So my top tip would be to scale a rock that you kind of like the shape of, like I've done for the start of the mountains, scale it up to as big as it can go, and just start placing these rocks. So as you saw in the first episode, I showed you how I put basic shapes to line out what I want to do first, and similarly to that, I did the same with the full scale rocks. I lined it all out and kind of just added to the big rock just to get that more detail in and kind of get the point across that it is this massive rock floating in the sky, but it has to be realistic, of course. So don't obviously, if you want to build a fantasy park, it's up to you. But if you do want to build more of a theme park that has a little bit of realism, do make sure to use as much vines as possible, and don't make it look so don't have like a giant arch going over the way, and not think about some supports or anything like that. So just add a little bit of realism there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I haven't done it perfect. I probably could have used like these really, really small sort of what do you call them, shapes, like the circles and stuff like that, and gone all the way through, made these beautiful vines, but that would take a lot of time. You don't have to do things like that. So you can skip a couple of steps and still make it look pretty good. Another tip I could give you is to use as many types of bushes, flowers, trees as possible. Coming from Planet Zoo myself and just entering the Planet Coaster space, I am not used to when I say lack of scenery, I mean the amount you had in Planet Zoo was just so great that I'm still getting used to some of the new ones and some of the different textures in this one, and especially the fact that some of them are flexicolour. So my biggest tip would be to not just look at the picture and use it exactly as that. Take it outside the box. Don't just use it as for example, a bush or anything. You might want to use it as a vine. Like, for example, I used these creosote bushes, sunk them into the rock, and made them look like vines crawling up, or this thick tree that can grow out of the rock or something. They don't have to be this bush that sits on the ground in a planter. You can use it as something else. And when I see my friend build, for example, a lot of my friends, when they build, they kind of just lack that sinking in thing, because it creates different sizes. So I think another tip would be to sink your foliage in there. So rather than just using these bushes that are made for just the ground itself, you can also use sunken trees. Now, I couldn't use sunken trees in the mountains only because the general scaling in this game cannot just get rid of the tree trunk. So if I'm having a thing in the air, I can't just have the tree trunk poking out the bottom. So that was a giant issue I had when doing this. And yes, I did think about using the tree trunks to use them as a vine, and that did not work out at all. I thought maybe a palm tree would work, but don't even get me there. It looked awful. It took a long time to kind of get this idea. This was all off camera, so don't worry too much about that. But my God, these videos take a long time to make. I can't believe how long they take to actually create these structures when they just look so little in terms of when I build for Planet Zoo, this giant habitat. So it's very strange to me that how long this actually takes in this game compared to like Planet Zoo, for example. As you see, I do have a couple of animatronics and the big water splash of the anglerfish. I want it to look a little bit alien, so he is sunken under the ground. I want it like the worms from June sort of atmosphere as well. And I've also added waterfalls and some water. The water looks absolutely gorgeous. It's a must use if you ever have the chance to. But except from that, I also made a custom fence. You can probably see a little bit. I did spend some time making it, but I can't fit it in. as in I don't want to spend years of my life making this whole circular area with a custom fence. So later down the line, I will probably add this in, but after my first roller coaster, which will be in 2 episodes' time. But then again, that is the end of today's video, so I hope you guys did enjoy this. Please leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that'll be greatly appreciated, and I will see you on the next one. See you soon, bye!